is. There she is. There's the excitement.
All right. This is WEBurlesque, the podcast. I am your host, Viktor Devonne, and I am in Manhattan near Wall Street with a dear friend, someone that has helped change the trajectory of White Elephant Burlesque, actually, quite substantially, because for about a year, you were my co-star on Wednesday nights at Rock Bar.
Those Wednesday nights.
When it was White Elephant Burlesque and Deep Fried Tart, because in fact you are...
Hazel Tart.
Hi, Hazel Tart.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well.
Good.
So, you're not in drag now, so we're going to spoil that
dare
illusion.
you out me.
But if you were to have your full fantasy,
yes,
what would you have worn if this was like a visual medium on a podcast?
Oh God, I think I would have worn something. I mean, it's fall, so I probably would have worn like my big, huge hips with some like cute,
sensible.
Yeah, some like nice fishnets and maybe like an oversized sweater or a cardigan. Maybe panties, maybe not. Depends.
Maybe not.
It just depends on how much laundry I've done today, which is not a lot. So yeah.
What is your drag aesthetic? How would you describe that to people?
Oh Lord, that's something that I still struggle with.
It's in progress. It's all in progress.
Yeah. It's always an evolution. I would say H&M nerd. Like it's very like. It always has a very specific color palette or vision, but it's not necessarily very complex. I like...
There's more found items than sewn or created items.
Yeah. I rarely build my own pieces. Like I modify things a lot, but I often will find like one piece that just really speaks to me, and then I'll build a whole outfit around that. And it's also almost always focused around what number I'm actually doing.
Right.
I don't usually build a look first and then just like throw it.
Because you're not, back when you first started, when you were doing shows with Petra Fried, you both basically had to commit to a look that would count for the night.
Yes.
Sometimes it changed. Sometimes. I remember for a while you would do a basic look. Or not a basic look, I shouldn't say that.
Yeah, you can call them basic.
You would do an initial look, and then during intermission you would often change into something like Hermione.
Yes.
Which I think was probably one of your most known looks, most different looks for a substantial amount of time.
Yeah.
You started doing that at other shows, you did that for White Elephant a couple of times.
That was my first real cosplay.
It's like fashion Hermione, hipster Hermione.
Fashion Hermione, but again, the first piece of that was that crop top t-shirt of the Golden Trio that I randomly found one of in a clearance rack at Forever 21. So it was $10, and then the entire outfit built around that. That was my first really decidedly cosplay look that I ever did. And that was doing multiple looks in a show where it's you and one other person really just carrying a show for 2 hours was so exhausting.
I remember when you and Petra did that show at the Old Boots. The Old Boots and Saddle.
Yes.
And I think you had at least 2 or 3 different hair. But it was like the
I
first time I was
like
seeing
3
you.
outfits.
Yeah. It was the first time I was seeing you not at Rock Bar.
Yes.
And I was like, the pageantry. Both of you. You both were like... I was like, Jesus, it's just a lot. Yeah. And I know that, and Petra has talked about this, that it was like that kind of must do everything at all times, that kind of, it will definitely burn her out at one point. She's not producing a regular show at the present time. And when you left Deep Fried Tart, you did not, you opted, you were offered, I know.
Yes.
You opted to not immediately produce your own show.
Yes. There's a really big difference between being a part of a burlesque show and doing a 2-hour drag show every week. When you are a drag performer and you are doing a drag build show, it very quickly, Petra and I both, and I don't want to speak for her, but we've talked about this, where you feel this pressure to continually make things fresh and to continually be doing new things, and it should always be something that the audience wants to hear at that time. So there was always this pressure to, and it was totally a self-inflicted pressure, but to
what's hot on the radio right now?
Right.
What's the meme?
What's the big one? What's hot? What's now? What just came out? Yeah. And it very quickly came to my realization where I was feeling like I had to be a jukebox, and I had to be this jukebox for the entertainment of the audience. Yeah. And it was no longer me performing what I wanted to perform. And it was this cycle where, on top of having a day job where I was working 50 hours a week, it was exhausting. Yeah. And I felt like I was not allowed to just listen to music for the sake of listening to music.
You were constantly scoping out.
Yeah. I felt like if I wasn't like listening for music or listening to music that I had to learn, I felt like I was wasting my time.
I've absolutely gone through that with burlesque.
Yeah.
And I don't have the opportunity to do multiple acts in a row. Like, I don't have the opportunity to do a drag set where I can just do 5 acts. And so it became even more difficult for me to deal with, oh God, I have so many ideas because I have all these songs that I'm listening to, and I feel like I constantly should be creating something new, but I can only do it once per show. And that's a mess.
See, that's what drew me to burlesque. Like when I saw White Elephant performing, I saw that, oh, this is like, that's a really amazing opportunity.
Third show or second show or third show?
It was your second.
Was it Wednesday or a Monday?
Oh, it was a Wednesday.
Then it was our third show.
Yeah.
Yeah, you came in really early.
Yes. Yeah, so we started the day after my birthday, so it was like February 16th, and I was there the week before.
Okay, so maybe not that early then. You were there early, but yeah. Our first show was January 16th, 17th?
Something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Check the footnotes.
So early.
Yeah,
within the first month, yeah.
Yeah, and then you had Lilith LaFay and Princess Bitch. They did their... After us. And it just, you know what, it wasn't that it wasn't fun. White Elephant hadn't established the night yet.
Yes. Yeah.
So it was probably hard on them, although they were having a blast. It was almost definitely hard on the staff, and it was hard on White Elephant to sort of mash it all together. But I think...
And for a while there, we were like trying to figure out the night where we would like alternate weeks. White Elephant.
Yeah, that worked twice.
Tart.
And I hated it, and Jason hated it. That was the best part of it.
Yeah, everyone hated it.
Thank God Jason hated it because. No.
Yeah, it just became so confusing where nobody would know who was on that night.
Yeah.
And it was like, all right.
Let's do everybody.
Yeah, so let's just do everybody. But no, like, to our point before, like, that's what drew me to burlesque was every single performer got that moment and was able to bring one very specific thing.
Yes, a vision.
And vision for the night, and that was appealing to me because it gave me permission to not have to do 3 looks because I didn't need to, and that was really weird and really freeing, and I could lean into the full embodiment of the thing I had in my head instead of having to water it down to make it easily transitionable into something completely different.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and your first steps into burlesque were in drag.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I guess your first. I mean, was it the deconstruction? It was Take a Bow, right?
Yeah. It was the Madonna night. And Petra live sang, and I burlesqued while she live sang.
But I think you even did that in your show before you did it at Madonna. I think I booked it because I saw it in your show.
No, we made it for you.
You made it for us?
We made it for you, and then we did it again shortly afterwards.
Okay, that was probably it.
Yeah, because we were like, this was really fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done boylesque a couple of times, but yeah, I definitely enjoy playing with both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you consider your drag to be, I don't know, an extension of just your fashion tastes? Or do you think that, like, and maybe in a different world, or maybe in the actual world that it is, that you would wear that just in general, unpadded or a variation of it? Or does Hazel have a different taste level than you, not Hazel? It's definitely
a more heightened, more saturated. Like we're definitely drawn towards the same things, but I, as a boy, I tend to tone it down and make it a little bit more casual wear. And I think
because you're not really gender fucky. You have moments of dipping, but for the most part, you read pretty boy.
Yeah. And I think over time, like one of the things that I really thank my drag life for is exploring that, and is exploring the gender fuckiness of me, and exploring my queerness in as far as visually, as far as how I perceive gender and how I perceive myself in gender. Like that's something that I never would have been able to do without Hazel. And so I definitely think that it's been a conversation between us where like we started as two very separate visual beings with very different styles, and then I realized that it was less that Hazel was a separate thing and more like Hazel was if Boy Me was in a very stylized anime, where, you know what I mean, where it's all very like cranked up to 11 and everyone has like a very specific hairstyle, and it's all very bold choices and
heightened.
So that's something that's definitely been a conversation with myself the last few years.
I identify with that because I've learned a lot about. It's weird learning taste level from a hobo clown, but
but you do it so well.
Thank you. But learning from Victor's style choices. I'm obviously wearing like corduroy as like regular wear now, and which that's just a fall choice for a lot of people, but it's also what I wear. I wear a lot of vests and I wear a lot of dress shirts and suspenders. So I have suspenders on now.
Yes, suspenders and a t-shirt. I love it.
And I will frequently, like at a social event, like we were recently at a wedding together, and I wanted to make sure I at least had some eye stuff going on. Your eye. Thank you.
Yes.
And it's sort of like giving permission to myself when I'm not in full clown to go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
It's comfortable to me, and it makes me like I'm even wearing like show shoes. Technically, I don't wear these are dress shoes.
Yeah.
But they're very comfortable dress shoes.
They're very comfortable dress shoes. Yeah. Yeah. Like I paint my nails a lot more now, and I did that when I was younger, as like an early teenager, and I stopped doing that for a long time. But now, like especially now since I've sent Hazel on a vacation. I've been painting my nails more just for my own gratification. Yeah. Which has been.
It's like Sally Bowles said. It just if it does so happen I do paint my fingernails green. I think it's pretty.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to be more than that.
Yeah.
But sometimes it is.
Yeah.
When you were growing up, and I only know a little bit about your backstory, your origin story, as it were. Because we obviously, since I've known you for almost 4 years at this point.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of conversations, but to sort of like boil it down, especially for an audience that has not had the opportunity to meet and or see you, as a child or as a youngin, as it were, did you, as you said, you've painted your nails, and we can get into other stuff involving your upbringing. Did you play with gender or with masculinity as a younger person?
Not really, no. We're both pastors' kids.
True.
So like I was raised in the church. I went to church 3 times a week.
What denomination?
Pentecostal.
Pentecostal.
Yeah. Like if you've seen Jesus Camp, the documentary, or the tent revival service in Borat, that was my childhood. Yeah, super cute and horribly toxic. But yeah, I never. Growing up, I realized I was gay at a very young age, and I had no intention of ever coming out. In my head, the only way to exist and not completely disappoint every single person I knew was like my game plan was stay in the closet until everyone in your family's dead. And then and only then
and still get married and have children and
no just be alone.
Wait it out.
Wait it out. Just wait for everyone to die.
Wow.
Literally wait for everyone in your family to die and then come out. And
so not even have like a sham marriage like so many though.
Oh God, no. I couldn't do that. But no, like there were it wasn't out of the realm of question. Like my mother asked me like 3 or 4 times probably throughout my childhood if I was gay. So it was
How did she
it was
ask?
somewhat apparent. Yes, it was always in the context of I need to ask you something. If the answer is yes, I want you to know that it's okay, and we have resources to help you. Insinuating,
conversion therapy.
Conversion therapy camps. And so I vehemently denied it every single time, purely for self-preservation.
Sure.
Because her and I had a terrible relationship anyway, so it was like I knew it wasn't gonna get any better by doing that.
That won't improve.
That will not make anything better. But yeah, I mean, like, she wanted, like, that was the answer she wanted anyway. I mean, they found gay porn on the computer twice in my in my internet history, and I explained it away with like my Yahoo account got hacked, and they let it go. So I just that was most of my childhood, was just trying to survive. So gender now, gender wasn't even a thing that I realized could be a question until much later.
What kind of kid were you?
I was the kid who, I was a theater kid, but I was the kid who had a lot of school friends, but I didn't hang out with anybody outside of school. Like I was overweight, but not super overweight, but I wore like 2 and 3 XL shirts. Like I just wanted to like hide.
Wow.
I
actually can't imagine that on you.
Oh, I have pictures. I can show you later.
You're thin and wiry.
Yeah,
so
I'm 6'1", so like my frame
eventually lengthened. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm 165 right now, but I was 210. I know.
All right.
I'm 6'1". There's
there's
a lot of
bones.
There's a lot of body to fill. But yeah, like I wore 2 and 3 XL shirts, and just like the baggiest clothes. And I always wanted to just be able to be pleasant, but go without a trace. And that was kind of like my thing was, I had plenty of theater friends at school, but I would never hang out with any of them outside of school because I did not want them to meet my parents, and I did not want my parents to meet them. So everybody was very much...
So no sleepovers.
No sleepovers. Like, I went to like a few like birthday parties or like cast parties, but that was all very dependent on like what was allowed, like no co-ed even if it was a cast party.
Really?
Oh yeah, no.
How old were you at this time?
Like 14, 15, 16. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was very much just
Did
like...
you go to an all-boys school?
Oh God, no. I went to a Christian school until my freshman year of high school, and then I went back to public school.
Okay.
But that was not without its... That was primarily because I was so miserable in private Christian school, and it got to a point where, like, I was convinced, one, that I just realized I was gay. The private school had 1 class per grade, so there were 12 kids in my entire grade. We all knew each other. They all played sports. I ate lunch in the bathroom by myself. And yeah, like it got to the point where like even my mother, who was like she's like Westboro Baptist Church level, she was like, would you like to go back to public school? I mean, she told me that I had to pray about it and see what God wanted. So I just waited a week and then was like, yeah, God said to go back to public school. She was like, just pray about it. And I was like, yeah, I prayed. God said go back to public school. So
I mean, yeah. In a weird, terrifying way, it just means listen to your heart and make the right decision. But, weird and terrifying.
Yeah.
So, what state was this in?
Maine.
Maine.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know enough about Maine to consider it all that conservative, but I guess I shouldn't be surprised.
It's really liberal for the most part.
I think of it as like voting though, so I'm thinking of a very specific area of Maine.
Yeah.
Maine's big.
Maine is big, and Maine has very diverse pockets. Like the Portland area, which is where I grew up, like that was very progressive. Like you go to Portland, Maine, and it's not too different from Portland, Oregon.
Okay.
But I lived in a very religious bubble where they did not interact with the secular world, and it was a risky thing to have a life outside of the religious bubble. So it was all,
Were you constantly in a uniform, constantly going from things? I'm imagining you like in Saved. I'm just. Did you see Saved?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Eventually, not when I was a teenager.
Well, no.
No, there were no uniforms, but it was like like on Wednesdays at the Christian school we had chapel hour, which was a class, and so on Wednesdays you had to wear a shirt and tie, but that was the closest to a uniform I ever had. Mostly because the school was so close to broke at all times that they couldn't afford to enforce anything like that. No uniforms, but just a lot of closed-mindedness and a lot of fear of the secular world.
Yeah.
Like when I got into theater, that was my into drag and burlesque, and funny enough, that's exactly what my mother feared. Like when I got into theater and I was acting and I was in the theater club and I told my mom I wanted to go to school for theater for college. My mom was like, all right. So she did some research and she gave me some pamphlets, and there's this one theater, I want to say in Virginia, where all they do is biblical reenactments all year. And there's a Christian school that has a good theater program, and that was my path. And if I wanted to go to a non-Christian school, and if I wanted to do anything but a Christian theater career, I was on my own. They would not support it. They would not help me in any way, because that is a corrupt world. And to quote my mother, it would only be a matter of time before I was being paid $1 million to take my clothes off and have sex on stage.
$1 million?
I mean...
If for all the things for her to get right, she couldn't get that right.
I know, right? As a sassy teenager, I said, well, for $1 million, and then I was grounded.
Oh.
But yeah, and so now I'm just fulfilling all of her nightmares, and it's really, really fun. And I love it.
So your burlesque and your drag is heavily nerdlesque, and is there a nerd draglesque?
Oh, I mean, if anyone's gonna do it, it's gonna be in New York.
Yeah, has been very major component of your expression.
Yeah.
What were some of your earliest nerdy leanings?
Oh Lord.
Knowing that you had only so much media to consume, since it was filtered for you.
Yeah, a lot of it was hidden. Saturday morning cartoons, I lived with the volume on the lowest audible notch, and then do you remember how TV remotes used to have the last channel button?
Yeah.
Where you could flip back and forth?
Uh-huh.
I would find the safe thing to watch, and then I would go to what I wanted to watch, and I would just sit there
and wait
to hear for any footsteps nearby, and then I would just click back to whatever was safer.
What was this racy material that you...
Pokemon, Digimon, X-Men, Pokemon evolve, so that's dangerous, and there are psychic types. Yeah, like I was openly into Pokemon until I found in my stepdad's study, where he would prepare his sermons, I found that somebody had photocopied the entire, it was a Pokedex, printed out that I had. Somebody had photocopied the entire thing and gone through and highlighted every time it said evolution or psychic. Ooh. Or anything unholy.
Ungodly, yeah.
Yeah, and so I immediately started to, I pretended to not like Pokemon anymore. And so then I had to like it in secret. And it was the same with Harry Potter. I knew that was a taboo from the beginning. So
it's kind of like on the book cover. Like it's kind of like he's literally riding a broom.
Yeah, sacrificing small children.
I mean, it's on the back cover.
Book 3, but still. But my aunt read that a lot, and she loved it, and she was my saving grace growing up within my family, and so I would go and spend weekends with her a lot, and I would sneak her Harry Potter books back, and I would hide them underneath my mattress. And then I would go into the bathroom in the morning and I would sneak it in with like my change of clothes and my towel. And then I did this thing where I wouldn't shower every day, but I would turn the shower on every day. And then I would lay there with the water running, and I would often like stick one hand in there so like it sounded like somebody was in there, and I would be reading Harry Potter or playing Pokemon games on my Nintendo. And that's what I did, and that's how I consumed my media was. Yeah, I pretended to be constipated a lot, so I'd be in the bathroom for like an hour.
Wow.
Just sitting on the toilet reading Harry Potter till my legs went numb, and then I would hide it in the hamper.
I have to think that like there are so many people, like most people, who would assume that that's such a ridiculous, unheard of possible notion, but that is a reality.
Yeah. I mean, that was really why I Harry Potter was such a big influence in my life, and still is to this day, is like I felt like Harry trapped under the cupboard and just wanting to be left in my own space and fearing every time I heard the footsteps coming down the stairs or every time I heard a knock on my door. So that like Harry was me. And so getting to experience a life where at 11 years old he got to go away to a better place where he had a new family was something that I clung to throughout my entire teenage years.
So when did you finally do that? When did you finally get out?
It started. It was kind of a gradual and then sudden thing. Like it was. What do they say? It was like falling asleep slowly and then all at once. Okay. So I came out to my high school beginning of my sophomore year. I don't know how old that would have made me. 12, something like that. 11, 12, 13.
You graduate by 17, 18, and 16, 15, 14, 13, 14.
Yeah. So I came out to my school at that point. So everyone at school knew I was gay. So it became more important than ever for no one at school to meet my family. And then when I was 17, my mom and I had been fighting more and more. And we had this like one argument in particular. And I don't know I still to this day don't know if this had anything to do with what eventually happened, but like we had this one argument where she just like berated me for like I distinctly remember timing it, and it was 3 hours of like, why are all your friends female? Why do you walk the way you walk? Why do you why do you stand with one hip pushed out? Like the clothing that you choose is very colorful. You paint your thumbnails sometimes. Like, do you want people to think you're gay? Do you want them to think that you're female? And then we didn't talk for like a month and a half. And I went to work. It was during summer break before my senior year of high school. I went to work every day, came home, went to my room. I just kept a really low profile. And then out of nowhere, my birth dad, he was picking me up from driver's ed one day, and that had been arranged. And he took me to his house and he said, "So your mom's been calling me. She doesn't want you to live there anymore. She wants you to come live with me." And I was like, "Oh." And he said, I know that we don't have a great relationship. Like, he was an alcoholic until I was 15. Like, he's very like hunting, fishing. He belongs in Maine, in the woods of Maine. And so he understood that, he was like, "I know that living with me would be a challenge. I've talked to your aunt and uncle. Do you want to go and live with them?" And I said, "Hell yeah." And honestly, that was the best day of my life. And so we went and moved all my stuff out. I didn't speak a word of it to my mom. There was no actual conversational exchange. And yeah, I moved out without actually talking to my mom or my stepdad, and never looked back. I've talked to them a handful of times since. But I made sure to stay in the closet until I knew that I was safe until I knew that no one in my family could have any power over me by coming out. Yeah.
How did you get to New York?
College. I went to Adelphi University out on Long Island. My aunts really helped me to like apply for college. They drove me down here to audition. They were always super supportive. And they like helped me find scholarships to help pay for it because nobody could or would help me.
Right.
And so I went through college and I made friends in college that all moved to New York, and I knew I wanted to live here because of rent, because I was a teenager in the late 90s, early aughts, and so, rent was the thing.
It's either that or Santa Fe.
Exactly. So, and so I moved here not really knowing what was going to happen, and lo and behold, here we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, how long have you been in New York?
I moved here after college. I toured with the Children's Theater for a bit, and then I moved
to what?
I toured with the Children's Theater,
okay.
Doing classic literature adaptations for schools and libraries.
And you were one of the players?
Yeah, I was one of the actors. That was fun. I did that for 3 or 4 seasons. And then I moved here properly in January 15th, 2012.
Okay.
And I've been here ever since.
Ever since?
Yeah. How long does that make it? 2012? 6 years?
18?
Yeah. 6, almost 7 years.
Almost, yeah.
Damn.
Makes a girl think.
Right?
And you know what they say about every 7 years, your body completely regenerates. So you're an entirely different person.
Yes, I'm a Time Lord. Yes. Maybe I'll be a redhead this time.
When you fell, because you fell into drag, it wasn't like an aspiration per se.
Mm-hmm.
Explain that process. Explain how.
I had made a lot of drag queen friends, just through the nightlife community. Milady Upper Crust, Ivy Winters, Misty, Meaner and Mocha Light, and it was a thing where like more and more they would ask like, oh, when are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? And then it was just out of the blue, Milady Upper Crust asked me and Petra Fried, hey, do you two want to guest at my Pride show this year at Boots and Saddle. And we did, and it was there that Princess Bitch and Lilith LaFay said, oh, hey, you should do our show in like a month. Mm-hmm. And then it was from there that we got asked to do another thing, and then it just snowballed. And then Jason from Rock Bar was like, hey, do you want to do a weekly show? And we've been doing drag less than a year, so it was probably not the best business idea for him. We were very green.
He wanted, well, that's the thing also, is there's so many drag performers in New York that it's almost, everyone learns on a curve and everyone evolves so quickly and you or stays the same so long. Yeah, and you kind of just pick it up as you go. Yeah. Like, my makeup was terrible for the first year, 2 years. That was really the moment when it became like, oh, like Hazel Tart is going to be a person in my life. Yeah. Was when Jason asked us to do a weekly show, and it was terrifying and amazing, and we didn't really. It was honestly by working so closely with you and with everyone in White Elephant Burlesque that I found who Hazel was, and I learned more about myself, which I am eternally grateful for. What are some of the things you learned from Hazel?
And us, for that matter. I learned more about who I was as a queer individual. Mm-hmm. I really don't. I don't like using the term gay anymore. I much prefer the term queer. Sure. I learned more about standing up for what you believe in and having a vision and going towards it and fighting for it. Like seeing you get up there every week, put together a show, and seeing the family that you have built through White Elephant, and seeing how important all of you were in each other's lives. That was when I really started to realize, oh, these people are in my life, and these are going to be people in my life, and this isn't just oh, I'm in this show time slot before them. Yeah. And I was often running the sound for you all, but it was somewhere during there that I really felt, oh, these are important people to me, and that was sort of when Hazel became more important to me, and it was really through adding the burlesque element to Hazel, where
there's another thing where it's just basically everyone around you kept saying, so when are you going to do this?
Exactly. Yeah. Like that's been most of my experience in New York, where it's just a thing. Like I made the wedding cakes for Esmeralda and Triple J, and that was because I randomly ended up having a job as a baker at a vegan place in New York, and I did that for 3 years.
You made my wedding cake.
I made your wedding cake. I made Jason and Jared's wedding cake. Yeah. And that was just like, those are things that just I've always been really bad at actively pursuing things that I think I want. I'm really good at saying yes to things, and that's something that I'm working on now, but it's because of Hazel that so many opportunities were asked of me. And that was something really important. And honestly, like through burlesque, because I think after a certain point, my exploration of being a queer person sort of reached its natural conclusion. That exploration, that journey reached its end, and it was only then that burlesque and cosplay burlesque really helped to open the next chapter, which was really exploring my relationship with my body and my relationship with my identity, and physically and emotionally, and my vulnerability with the people around me. I don't know if we've talked about the show I did for D20 Burlesque. It was a Mountain Goats tribute show, and it was earlier this year. And it was right around the time when 2018 has been a journey to Mordor and back for me. But it was at a point when I was really starting to realize that Hazel and I were becoming really toxic for one another, and it it wasn't because Hazel was bad and burlesque was bad and drag was bad. It was because I was posting things as Hazel and it would get so much attention, or so much more attention than when I would post something as a boy. Or it's always like at a show, I'm down, I'm backstage getting ready, and and I'm all cinched in, and I have my pads, and I probably haven't eaten much that day because I'm anxious. And somebody makes a comment about oh, I hate you, you're so skinny, oh, you look so good. And it was around that time that I started to realize that I had a problem with where I would, when I had a burlesque show coming, especially if I was doing boy burlesque, where I couldn't pad and fake it, I would actively limit the amount of food I was consuming. And that was something that, paired with depression and anxiety, and it was really this relationship that only through Hazel did I really realize how bad it had gotten.
Right.
And so I did for Anya's D20 Mountain Goats tribute. I did a number. Do you know the song "The Mess Inside"? It's supposed to be a song of a relationship between a man and a woman who they feel that this amazing relationship that they had is gone, and they keep on going back to these places that they used to love, trying to find what was gone, but they're really just ignoring the mess inside of the relationship that has become who they are. And so I found this amazing cover with Amanda Palmer where it's Amanda Palmer and the Mountain Goats singing it as a duet. And so I did it as Hazel after a show and looking in the mirror and de-dragging and turning back into boy. And that was sort of my coming to terms with the fact that for me as a boy to have a healthy life, I needed to give Hazel a break, because I was spending money on Hazel and not, like, Chris wasn't buying new clothes because boy me, the clothes didn't matter.
Yeah.
Hazel was, her looks matter. And so I had to spend the money on those costs. Yes. Yeah. That's what counts. That's what gets the bookings, and that's what gets the social media likes. And that's what
gets the acknowledgement.
Yeah. And that was something that, again, I have to thank Hazel for, and my drag and my burlesque. But at the same time, it was thank you for letting me discover this. Yeah. And now, to get better, we need to see other people for a while. And so I stopped accepting any new gigs, finished the ones that I had already committed to, and I've been spending my money on getting help. And it's Mental Health Awareness Month. So I do have clinical depression, anxiety, and an eating disorder. And those are things that I'm getting help for now. Right. That I don't think I would have if it weren't for Hazel. And so they're
not because of Hazel.
Right.
Hazel was the lens that
was
you
the
were
flashlight that brought it to light. Yeah. Like those were all things that I've been dealing with since I was a teenager. Like the eating disorder was from like when I didn't have money in college, and so I wasn't eating, or like I was eating very little, and I was losing weight like crazy, and that's when, oh, you look so good, you look so thin, you look so, that's when that all started. But it wasn't until, it was only through the hyper lens of drag and burlesque that I was able to see that as an external person, of the divide between me as a boy and me as a drag performer. Right. That I was able to see that from an outsider's perspective. And it was something that it made being Hazel really challenging, but also saved me. And that's something that I am eternally grateful for. And Hazel's not gone. Hazel is letting boy get better and find a better, so that we can come back together and find a healthier relationship. Right. Yeah. I love you. I love you.
Do you consider, I mean, I know some performers have, drag performers, look at their transition into their drag character as that is the woman. Do you look at Hazel as a woman? Or do you
Not anymore. I very much did when it started. And again,
that's like the quote unquote right way.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I mean, this is something, again, that only because of Drag and Burlesque, and Anya Keister and I have talked about this extensively, where I don't know if I want to use he, him pronouns forever, as my normal non-performer life. And that's only because of exploring gender through Hazel. And I've been hesitant to say Hazel is they, them, because that feels... I'm very hesitant to assign a character that is created by me, a cis queer person, as they, them, but I don't see Hazel as she.
I will correct it as necessary, because I very frequently, in any context you present, I say she with you.
And I really don't, like, that's one of those things where I don't necessarily, I don't think that the binary necessarily applies, but I don't disagree with any pronouns. Like, I don't mind, like, I genuinely don't mind being referred to as he, him, she, her, they, them, any of them. I really don't mind. None of them feel
sufficient.
Yes. None of them feel untrue. I mean, it's similar. It's honestly similar to my relationship with my boy named Chris, where I've never felt like a Chris. I've gone by Chris because that's what people know me as, and that's what I go as. And it's the same thing with he, him, where it's like I don't necessarily feel quote unquote masculine or like a he, him, but I don't have an answer of what I would prefer to be called.
I get it.
You know, it's like I more relate to Hazel as a name, not because of the name itself, but because of what it has come to mean to me and what that person has come to mean to me. Same thing with pronouns, where it's like I don't know anymore, and I'm okay with that, and I don't want to limit myself, and I don't want to say I am not he, him. I don't want to say I'm not she, her. I'm just, whatever my presentation of the day was resonating with you as, go for it,
Where did the name Hazel come from?
Tart came first.
Doesn't it always?
Doesn't it always? Yes, the tart always comes first. I loved that as a play on strumpet or late.
It's a great old fashioned word.
Yeah, I loved it, and I don't remember where that came from, but I loved Tart, and so as soon as I moved to New York, drag became a thing on my radar, and so as every queer person does, it's like, what would your drag name be? And so I knew I loved Tart, and so I played with cherry tart. I played with like all different types of tart, and none of them resonated. And it was when I read *The Fault in Our Stars* by John Green. The main character is Hazel Grace, I believe, and I loved her I just loved her character, and I loved the way that story spoke to me. I read it in one sitting, and I was ugly crying, and I read it 3 times in the first 6 months it came out, and I don't think that character has any relation to Hazel Tart now, but in that initial choosing, I liked the way that Hazel Tart sounded together, and I liked having a literary reference that wasn't an obvious one. Right. If I picked Hermione Tart, it would be like, oh, you like Harry Potter. It's like I didn't want it to be an obvious nerd homage because I didn't want to feel tied to a fandom. And so I don't think of Hazel as Hazel from The Fault in Our Stars anymore. But that's where it came from.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I like her name. I like it. Yeah. I have toyed with the idea of going by Hazel exclusively. I don't think I would use Tart, but just Hazel in general. And again, it's one of those. It's an ongoing conversation with myself and who I am as a queer individual in this day and age. And how I want to exist in this world and how I want my relationship in this world to be.
Yeah. How is it this day and age?
It's interesting, I now go home to visit family once a year, and that's for Christmas, and I do it for only a few days. Not because the family that I still speak with doesn't love me, but because we have different opinions, and I know who voted for Trump and who didn't vote at all because they didn't want to offend their spouses. And yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing. Like my aunt and uncle, who I love very dearly, my uncle voted for Trump. My aunt, I don't believe, voted. But at the same time, like, they took in a queer person who was being kicked out of their home. They adopted 2 kids, one of whose is a biracial kid whose mother was a 15-year-old prostitute, and their other kid, their mom was homeless. And then they took in a political refugee who fled her country because she would have been killed. And so it's this really complex relationship with my family that all grew up in the church. Yeah. They don't know another life. And so having those conversations where it's, you've done all of these things and yet you voted for Trump.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a meme going around, and I forget precisely who it's attributed to, but it's basically of the trees kept voting for the axe because the candle was made of wood, and they thought it was one of them. And there are horrible people out there, but there are also horribly misinformed people and horribly deceived people. And people who, like this, I said when the election happened, that anyone who is middle class or higher, I think you're probably an asshole for voting for Donald Trump, because there's something that you're ignoring, agreeing with, or not being honest about.
Yeah. I mean, in the case of my uncle, it was explicitly because he was worried about his financial security as an upper middle class person.
Sure.
And I mean, the last time we talked about it, and I didn't talk about it with him, I talked about it with his wife. I said, okay, but you voting for the president of the United States is not about you, it's about all of us.
Yeah.
And so you need to think beyond your financial security.
Yeah. And also there's no guarantee.
Right.
With this, or frankly any of them.
Right.
There's no guarantee.
Yeah.
With any of that. That's the kind of promise politicians love to make but can't promise.
Right.
Those aren't decisions that are beholden to them.
Right.
So the second there's resistance, I mean, we saw this a lot with previous presidents where they pushed for things and the Senate blocked it, or Congress blocked it, or we couldn't, they didn't have the backing, or they just changed their minds. Sometimes it worked in our favor. People, I mean, all the time I've heard people who have mentioned how Hillary Clinton didn't support gay marriage in 93, or even in 2005, 2006, and I'm like, I don't really care.
Yeah.
I don't really care that people change their minds, and I don't even care if they change their minds for political gain, as long as they do the right thing that doesn't fuck with people.
Yeah.
motivation means very little to me because I know they're all for sale.
Right.
I'm aware of it.
Yeah.
And the problem is just that people who don't trust politicians are still voting for politicians, but they're pretending that they're not.
Right.
They're like, oh, don't trust politicians. I'm voting for this guy.
Yeah.
But you're still
a politician.
Yeah. He may have been a businessman first, but he became a politician.
Yes.
And he's a businessman, and you also don't like businesses because you don't trust things that it's all a weird hypocrisy that's exhausting.
Yeah. Oh God, politics are so exhausting. I subscribed to the New York Times as soon as he was elected, and he was attacking the media, and I did it for as long as I could, and then I had to stop because I wanted to support them, but I could not read the news. I was like, I need this to stop showing up at my door. I need to be emotionally ready to see what's going on out there. I can't have this just popping up in my feed and on my door every day. I can't.
It's all there, and it's unrelenting because we are also at a point where we learn things through social media, for good or worse. That is what it is. It's no different than a town crier.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's always been misinformation. It's just it's more. It's easier, but also
people
more
are more
complicated.
belligerent about it.
Yeah.
People get mad that when you say that they're wrong.
Yeah.
They don't want to be corrected. Well, it's still true, but
is it though? Is it though?
Okay, I mean, even if it's not this exact thing, the sentiment still stands. Yeah.
Well, have you seen one thing that I really, Facebook is working really hard to, to cover their asses, but also do better. I saw that there's a new feature now where you can click the three dots.
You can
and you
market
can see
fake news. Yeah, you can.
Yeah, but you can also they've also empowered you so that before you market as fake news, like you can see who paid for the ad, what other types of ads they have paid for.
Oh, interesting.
And so like you can see exactly who's paid for it and what other ads they've put up there, and then you can. So they are actively trying to put it in the user's hands where they know that they can't catch everything.
Yeah.
But they're making it as transparent as possible so that you can help them find it, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
Like that was not information that you could previously see it that easily, at least.
That's the algorithm on that must be ridiculous to find out all of that. Wow.
Yeah. How are you doing with the world these days?
I mean, I get so focused on the work that, like, and I have a husband that I live across the country from, and I have another job besides my burlesque career. I'm traveling. I've produced
a lot of shows.
3 regularly at present. 2 monthlies and 1 weekly. That's a lot for anybody.
Yes, it is.
I also deal with any number of interpersonal relationships of various success. And I have had to make some very upsetting, disappointing relationship adjustments
mm-hmm.
over the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
It's all, I deal with money issues
mm-hmm.
frequently,
mm-hmm.
but I'm still extraordinarily fortunate in the position that I'm in. I can, and I'm sure most people assume that they can say this, I can, with very minor fear of successful contradiction, that I will never have to live on the street.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very lucky
mm-hmm.
to know that. I'm surrounded by people who I care a lot about,
mm-hmm.
But I also am surrounded by a lot of frustration and a lot of inner turmoil and people dealing with their own shit, and I can't fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't make people feel better.
Right. That's not your job.
I know. I absolutely know it.
But I know the want to. I do the same thing where it's like, you come to me with a problem.
Yeah.
I want to make things better for you.
And even if it's not because I have a plan or a method, because I don't necessarily have advice for everybody, but I at the very least have I just don't want people to be mad. And on a global scale, or at least on a national scale, it's not encouraging. And every once in a while, I sort of feel like what I spend my time on, what I focus on, even if it's very fulfilling for me, I just wonder every once in a while, why this is all bullshit, or it's all. Like Fiona Apple said, this world is bullshit.
It is. It very much is bullshit. Yeah.
And I'm aware of it. And the thing is, though, I can see that the Emperor has no clothes, but I can still be like, hey, Emperor, here's a sweater. I can still do that. And being mad at people who I know are good people, and knowing that people are right about something, but about one thing, but they're also flawed about another. It's troublesome, and I mean and that all may sound really obvious and well, yeah, what everybody does that.
But it's very. It takes a lot of mindfulness to see other people complexly, to imagine to see them as a fully formed three-dimensional human being that is just as complex as we are, because we spend so much of our time, and it takes so much energy just managing that relationship with oneself and the complexities of oneself.
And I find myself, it's easy to deal with people on a 3.5-5 minute timetable.
Yeah.
If I only have to deal with you, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but if I only have to handle what your baggage is, or what your history is, or what happened to you that day, for 5 minutes at my show, where you put it all on stage, relating to it or not relating to it, and then I now have to think of you as as a person. I just have to think of you as a 5-minute slot.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's backstage stuff, there's promo stuff, there's community and social gatherings, but there are a number of people that I do not know beyond saying hello to at a show, seeing them perform, or paying them perform, or paying them and not seeing them perform. There are a lot of people that I have given money to entertain other people that I am not in the room for.
Yep.
Because I'm getting dressed for something, or I'm taking care of something, or I've been out of town. I produce shows that I'm not here for.
Yeah, and you're like, I hope that was good.
Hope that was good. I hate that I'm missing it, and I also hate when that it just went into the ether. That was I produce some great fucking shows.
Yes, you do.
And I am so mad at a world that doesn't everyone get to see that.
Yeah.
Makes me crazy.
But that's also kind of the fun of it.
Listen, no, it's not. I was talking to somebody about this. I'm talking to somebody else today about that. No, it drives me crazy.
Really?
It's my least favorite thing about burlesque is the fact that it ends. And that not everyone got to see it, and not everyone. I mean, and what I do is I think I can link that to one of we'll call it idiosyncrasy.
Mm-hmm.
One of my character traits
Mm-hmm.
is that I want to be completely understood at all times.
Mm-hmm.
And that when I misunderstood or misinterpreted or misquoted, I get mad as a hornet.
Mm-hmm.
And I apply that to other people now,
Mm-hmm.
where if they don't get understood, or if they didn't get, if everyone didn't see what they were putting out there, then somehow it's a problem.
Right. See, I'm the exact opposite. Where
Not
the exact opposite. No, I care so much, but like because of that like survival mentality that I had growing up, I like.
You like the release of it.
It's taken me all 30 years of my life to be able to let myself voice my opinions on things. We have this joke where like a secular song will come on from like the late 90s, early 2000s, and you'll say to me, Hazel, do you know who this is? And like, nope, I don't. But like,
which is totally stolen basically from Mean Girls.
Oh yeah, but in my early 20s or my late teens, I would not have felt comfortable enough to say that. I would have straight up lied and told you I knew what that movie was, what that reference was, because I was terrified that admitting that I did not know the same things that you knew would mean that you would not like me. And so it's taken this long just to
I take it as an opportunity
myself.
to then make it about me, educating you.
But I love that.
As my Eliza Doolittle.
I love being educated. I love being educated. Oh, I love it. Yeah. It's a fascinating thing coming into the drag and burlesque world, having missed so much of the secular world until 2006, where a lot of like the number of times like when you do those shows where you assign a song, and everyone knows the song except for me, but I'm performing it, so I have to get to know it. That's always it's terrifying but really fun.
Last year at my birthday,
yes,
I gave you "Beautiful Stranger"
yes.
by Madonna.
Yes,
and I gave it to you thinking that it had like that retro feel to it that I thought would appeal to you. And I also thought that there was a possibility that you had heard it before.
I hadn't, but can I tell you a secret?
Yes.
I was in the second act.
Yeah.
So within the first couple of numbers, we all figured out that every song was a Madonna song.
Yes. Which I had not told anyone.
Yes. And so, but you told us the clues.
Yes.
And I forget what clue you gave me.
Flirty, I think.
But there was something about being a stranger. And so I looked up Madonna songs, figured out which song it was by the end of Act 1, and then during intermission, I listened to it 3 times.
Oh my
so
goodness.
That I didn't want to know the song, but I wanted to feel comfortable enough knowing the beats of the song and knowing the length of the song and the spacing. Yeah. And so I figured it out during intermission, but I had never heard that song before. I had never heard Beautiful Stranger before your birthday last year. And I loved doing that act. And you were so much fun that night.
Well, yeah, I wish I remembered more of it.
It's true, but there's a wonderful video of you pulling my suspenders off.
Oh, is there?
Uh-huh.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm still involved.
Yeah, I made you pull my pants off and you almost fell over.
Yeah, sounds right.
It was fun though.
It was my birthday.
It's true. And we were leaving for DragonCon the next morning down to Georgia. So
Lord.
That was an exhausting stretch of time.
I was hungover the next day.
Yeah. We were too, but we were on a plane. Oh, that was so much fun.
Yeah.
I love it. What else do you want to know?
I don't know.
What else do you want to talk about?
What else should we find out?
I don't know.
What time is it?
I don't know.
Okay. Oh, it's 5:20.
Hey Siri, what time is it?
I mean, I guess like a lot of the questions that I would ask on a podcast such as this is I would say things like, so what do you want to do for the future? But I know that you're not quite sure about all of that.
Yeah.
I guess I just sort of keep things going.
Yeah. Like my focus right now is getting help. Like I have a great team of doctors. I have great medication. Those are eating up all the expenses that I would use to buy outfits and buy costumes. Mm-hmm. So I am reallocating funds there, but I'm also I always have ideas, and for me, drag and burlesque and my life in the theater, the fun of it has never been those 3.5 minutes on stage. Never. I have never the enjoyment for me has never been in the performance. It's always been in the fun of the prep. You know, like I love figuring out how this mix of this song is going to go, like building costume pieces and problem solving that and working on my makeup. That's always the fun for me. The presentation and the performance is the required end step so that I can lay it all out there. Yeah, so that I put an end on it. That is the stamp that of me boxing it up and packaging it up and giving it to the audience. But that is not the fun for me. That is so much anxiety for me. It's enjoyable and it's exhilarating and I love it after it's done. But the actual performance of it is not the enjoyment for me. The enjoyment is figuring out the story that I want to tell and figuring out a way to tell it, which I can do without getting on the stage. Like I can plot up a million projects for the future, and when boy Hazel is ready to re-engage Hazel in an active relationship, they'll be there. But in the meantime, my very small New York apartment bedroom has more space for Chris, because previously it's been 90% Hazel and 10% Chris crammed into the laundry bin. So
what is your creative outlet right now? Are you still writing?
I haven't been writing, but NaNoWriMo's coming up, National Novel Writing Month.
Right, you've participated in the last couple of years, haven't you?
Yeah, I've participated every year for the last 4 years. And often Hazel has been the reason why I don't complete it, because again, I'm terrible at saying no to things. So I say yes to things and then I overload myself, and then I have 5 shows in the month of November on top of my day job, on top of Thanksgiving. But yeah, I'm a really creative, I'm a creative soul who does not like to constrain myself to one particular medium, because for me it's the story will tell me what, if it's drag, if it's burlesque, if it's writing, if what it is. So these days I'm doing writing. I'm working on a spooky anthology series that's very queer, that's been in my head for a few years. I'm in a D&D campaign with Lute Alfred Douglas. And a whole bunch of people from the community. So I'm having a lot of fun with that. And D&D is a very low, it allows me to be creative and storytell without the financial need or without the need to spend 3 hours getting into my makeup to get on stage for 3.5 minutes. I can still play creatively. So, there's no shortage of creative outlets for me. It's just I'm shifting my priorities, and that's what I've always done. Before drag, I did weekly YouTube videos for 3 years, and that's why I don't want things to last forever, because those videos are still there, Victor. And I hate when people find them.
Well, fortunately, you didn't just mention it.
Well, it's not under Hazel Tart. Good luck finding it.
I actually think I know where they are.
Yeah, most people can find it pretty easy. It's fine if other people watch it. I don't want to go back and watch it.
That's fine.
So it's the constant shifting of the avenue with which I am creating, and so I'm letting it be a quieter creative relationship right now, and a healthier one for me for the time being. Yeah. 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 But I still love drag, and I still love burlesque, and I still love you, and I still love everyone, and I still love White Elephant Burlesque. It's amazing.
Thank you.
It's an amazing thing.
It is, and I can say that because I can credit folks such as you for helping to shape it. So thank you, darling.
Thank you
for sitting down with me and getting so.
Hell yeah!
You went and ways Barbara Walters wasn't prepared for.
I'll lay it out there. I don't speak to half my family, so they're never going to listen to this. I don't care. No, I very much like to be an open book whenever possible. Stigma is a real thing, and in every avenue, whether it be queerness or mental health or anything. And I think it's important to, if you are somebody who is comfortable bearing that part of yourself, I think it's important, and I think it's a responsibility to do that when the avenue gives itself to you so that other people feel like it's okay and that there are other people out there. So, yeah.
Well, thank you for taking care of yourself.
Thank you.
Because you mean a lot to me.
Thank you. You mean a lot to me. I love you.
Hugs, group hug.
Oh, group hug. Sorry, I'm sure that was audibly wonderful to listen to with our creaking metal chairs. Soundbite.
Hi, this is Viktor Devonne. Thank you so much for listening to Season 2 of WEBurlesque, the podcast. Special thank you to our Patreon supporters. That is Rob, Stormageddon, Kelly, Joseph, and Michelle. If you would like to support us via Patreon, you can go to the patreon.com/WeBurlesque. It is also in the footnotes of this episode. And you can also find us on any of your favorite podcast programs. If you can, please rate and review us there. It does help us out. It shows us in the search results of all of these places. It allows us to be seen. And if you also feel like it, you can go to WeBurlesque.com/shop, that's SHOP, and you can support us that way as well. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.